I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support you guys send my way. From the heart, thank you. Also, do please help the message or the channel get out there a little bit more by liking, unliking, and just doing one of them things that help the channel. Thank you. Well, before getting into everything, those that don't know, right? Do excuse if I don't sound like myself. There's just, a lot going on right now, personal wise, right? Health wise. Nevertheless, you know, I'm gonna keep pushing regardless. But to get into what I want to get into today, like I've been promising, I want to do a little profile. Today, I want to touch on, to me personally, to a lot of people in Culiacan, right? This was the main individual that literally started everything when it comes to Sinaloa. Well, after El Coyote, right? And you see it nowadays that they're doing everything possible to not let him out because they fear the individual, right? But I want to talk about El Güero Palmas, and basically get a little bit more deeper than what put out there about him, through time, hearing family and just being from out here, right? Anyways, I remember since a kid, right, that I used to come down and visit family down here. They uh they had a big fear of this individual because he literally wiped families down. When you backtrack and really think about when the palabra was broken, family was off hands and stuff. It started with him and Tarellanos, the war. But before getting into there, I want to backtrack. A lot of people associate El Güero Palmas with Gallardo, right? That's how he had to start, but no. If you dig a little deeper, since the '70s, he was doing his thing, right? He was known for getting Holland together and passing it back to the states as he got busted. He did time in the states, right? At the same time, he already had a lot of people when it come down to where he's from, right? Which is Mocorito or Noria, in the Sierra. It's a small, poor little town, right? Nevertheless, you know, nowadays we tend to associate Sinaloa with El Mayo or El Chapo, when in reality, they're a small fraction of Sinaloa, right? But the true pointer was El Güero Palmas. They attempt to push them out, and that's the betrayals of El Mayo and El Chapo started. I'll probably get backslash, right? But regardless, the truth is the truth. The first big betrayal was against El Güero. It is why at one point where they were busted in Jalisco, El Güero was out to kill El Chapo. but he got extradited, right? But to get started, when Güero started getting, you could say a little bit of wiggle room in the conversation of being a capo, was when he was under Gallardo, right? At one point, he was one of the capitanes del Gallardo. As you guys know, Gallardo was considered the head. He's the one that would assign his soldados to the states, right? Amado to Juarez, Arellanos to Tijuana, and Sinaloa. The main individual, the only individual assigned to it was El Güero Palmas. El Chapo was there already, but he was a gunman that stayed with Gallardo's. Güero Palma was running Sinaloa by himself. Within time, I couldn't really tell you, right? But El Güero and El Chapo became what you hear a lot, right? Compadres, to strengthen the bonds of friendship, I guess. And in reality, it happened due to being under Gallardo. Some material came. This is real famous amongst my family and all Culiacan, right? That the beginning started by people getting over Gallardo's. You see, a shipment came in, and that's when Güero, Palmas, and Chapo decided to make their move. They literally sat on it. Some say they sat on the feria, some say they sat on the jale, right? And it was before my time, so my family believes it was a jale to to keep spinning it around. You know, feria, there was always money there, so it basically sparked an open war with Gallardo's and with everybody under Gallardo, which was why everything. He had people established in every state. And it's basically how Sinaloa started. You see, El Mayo was nowhere near how Sinaloa started, where at least the fools started pushing that agenda, right? At this time, it's well known that Mayo was working hand in hand with the Aretes in Tijuana, with the Aretes and Amado, you know, and it leads to the next step, right? Which is the betrayal. You see, Gallardo will get arrested, and Güero and Chapo, they were basically their own man. Again, they had Sinaloa on lock, and they start getting into Tijuana, which when they were all a federation, they would respect each other's territory, right? But not no more. They started pressing on the Aretes to get into the state, and the bonds were broken, right? The familia. This part I know as everybody knows it, right? I don't know how that Venezuelan got into the ear of Güero Palma's wife, but he did. He would convince her to basically leave with him, the kids, the two kids of El Güero Palmas, and take off with a couple millions of Güero Palma, right? They would leave to San Francisco. In San Francisco, you know, things came out to flow that this Venezolano was actually a sicario of the Arellano Felix, and he was on a mission. So he would end up killing Güero Palma's wife and sending the head to Güero Palma's. As he sent the head to him, he would fly into Venezuela with the two kids, and that's where he went further with it, right? Again, this ain't nothing new, and it wasn't a shocker to the Arellanos. It was what they did. By this time they had already taken out them 40 something people in Michoacan, including babies, kids, with an AK lead to the head. It was well known. They were just trash like that, right? In Venezuela, this individual filmed as he went to a bridge that went down to a rocky place, high up, and he threw the two kids, 4 or 5 year olds, off the bridge. He filmed and sent to Güero Palmas. But by this time, again, Güero Palmas was no joke. He would literally touch you anywhere in Mexico. And once this individual did this, he would eventually have him arrested, put in jail, and in jail, people under Güero, they ended up, you know, taking him apart. I'll just put it like that. And not only that, Güero Palmas took it further than that. You could say in a dirty way, right? Again, is what sparked the disrespect towards families, right? Is he did not only kill this Venezuelan's whole family in Venezuela, he literally wiped them out, and again, Gallardo was in jail and he started wiping out his family on the streets, and he knocked down his sole lawyers. All the lawyers taking care of Gallardo's, they got killed, you know, and the revenge kept going. What's real famous, if you're from Cali, you also heard of this, right? Is how El Mayo got in with El Chapo and El Güero, which was by setting up his bosses or his partners, however you want to put it, Darellano Felix. He sparked the deal with El Chapo and Güero that they were in an open war with him, right? And basically set up an event for all the Arellanos in Disco Crispin, as you guys know it, in Puerto Vallarta. And he made sure that all the brothers were going to go. And then he gave all the information to El Chapo and El Güero to catch him sleeping, right? Again, Guadalajara was more so territory of El Güero Palmas and Chapo. Is when they hit that disco, and we know it as the spark of Popeye, right? It's when Popeye from La M, the Pili, that was basically open doors with the Arellanos, came into fame by rescuing the carnales and have them come out of the bathroom. Basically, the Pili held the ground, right? He protected them. You gotta give props where props need to be given, right? And they failed the mission. With this, it sparked a whole bunch of stuff that I would get into when it comes to doing a profile on the Llanos, right? I can't really speak a lot about what went on in Tijuana, but I could tell you what went on here in Culiacan, right? With they have factions out here, when the war was going on. Regardless, after them kids, something sparked in Güero Palmas, and there's a lot of myths, right, on why the plane crashed in Nayarit when he was flying from the border to Guadalajara. Again, Guadalajara was more so their territory, right? And there was all broken promises or betrayals. Is when I tell you it started with Mayo coming in and Chapo aligning himself with El Mayo, and they doing what they're known for their whole career, right? Which is turning in their partners to the government to basically, hey, I'm gonna give you something good, let me work type of thing, right? It's how they always work. I mean, if you go back on El Mayo, there's so many people he turned in. El Ondeado, Nacho Prieto, took care of El Chino Antrax. Well, I could go on, right? A lot of people don't want to recognize it, but he gave up El Chapo the last time he got busted. Point blank, and it's why the families didn't want to get involved in this war because they knew what it was. But El Chapo didn't fall behind, right? He had that clecha from the time from El Güero. He turned in a lot of people too. They started this dirty type of trash tactics they used throughout their whole career. And I could nitpick on how many people under government El Güero Palma took out. I'm just gonna say this fool was a straight killer, no hesitation. Later on, we will see the AFI line themselves with El Chapo, but that also got brought in by El Güero. Anyways, when he flew from that meeting with El Mayo and El Chapo in the border to Guadalajara, guess who called in the military and El Güero? And as he's flying, his people told him, hey, they're waiting on you. And this individual up in the air told the pilots to land it. Keep in mind, he was going over Nayarit, where there's nowhere to land, right? Because he literally went past Jalisquillo, Nayarit, in a little town called La Curva. I've spoken about this town, right? Till date, there's a lot of people of this fool here there. But anyways, it's all mountains. He will force them to land. And you could say by the grace of God or whatever, he uh he survived. Everybody died but him. His people picked him up, drove him into Guadalajara, and dressed as a federal, he was trying to heal himself, right? But he was trusting in the wrong people by giving his location to his partner, and he would eventually his partner would send the Marines to bust him. Is how he got busted and never got out. You see, he's still busted, but people always say, wonder why. What would you say like this? I personally know of three ranchos that the Palmas control. So if he gets out, it's not when he's gonna start, when he's gonna go back. It's how he's gonna start, cause the people's already there. But I thought this would be interesting. He started off like a lot of fools start off here in Mexico, right? Remember my jefe used to tell me like, he comes from a poor town, and again, I don't know what extent he knew my dad, but my grandpa and him, they were cool. I'll just leave it at that, right? They didn't agree with what he started in Mexico either, right? Which was a lot of narcos start by stealing cars. You see, there's a big move in Mexico of narcos per se, right? But they don't move jale. They make their feria by taking cars. They work a deal with what they call transitos out here in Mexico. They're the only ones that could stop cars, right? And what they do, for example, this is practiced till date, right? 20 of them will go out to a well traffic area, but where it's not a city, right? Tresas federales, do roadblocks, stop all the good cars. We're talking about feria making cars, right? Hog tie the people in the car, take the cars. When they go out, they'll take about 15, 20 cars. And since they work with the captains of transitos, they will literally stash the cars. That cap from transito will go, is raised that much trees, put a new one, put out papers, and let's just say if a car's worth here 5,000 K, to get it out quick, they'll sell it for 300K. But we're talking about 15, 20 cars. Again, this is practice till date. Believe me, it's how a lot of people start. It's how this cat started. But I find it, well, the reason I'm touching on this, because just the word on the curve is he's gonna get out. And if you guys think the war Culiacan is bad as it is right now, I hope I'm wrong, but everybody knows when this individual gets out, he has a lot of things to square it off with these two factions fighting. Especially, and I'll tell you like this, the rest of their families are willing to back them up. No buts or ifs. But anyways, I thought it would be interesting how what we see today started with the fear of one individual. And a lot of people talk about El Mayo being this and that. Even if I get coscorrones, he was a rat. that turned in his own people to benefit himself, you know, and it's how he got into Sinaloa. But again, everyone or them fake news will put out narratives because they sound good. But anyways, I thought I would just get in and do a quick profile as I've been promising. Again, I hope I make sense. If not, do forgive me. With this, I'll end. I send my love. Stay true to yourself and to loved ones. Stay loyal to your loved ones. Excuse me.